Everyone, this is Phrakture here again, just continuing the drum rack tutorial. If you haven't seen part 1, there's a link in the description below. So for this tutorial, what I'm going to show is how you can also include instrument sounds into the drum rack, so instrument samples as opposed to just drum samples or percussion. So for here, we're just going to take a pad sample from my sample pack Lush and Expansive Atmospheres. It's actually, you can get it for free off freesound.org. Link is in the description. So I'm just going to take this sample here and I'm going to just drag and drop it into the drum rack like so. And now I can just play it off my MPK Mini off the pad. Now, if you look at the sample display for that sample, you can see that wherever that start marker is, that is exactly where it's going to start playing from that sample whenever you press the button. So you can imagine if you have like a big piano recording or guitar recording, you can sort of cut it off from just that one section where there's a chord or something that sounds good or something that you might like or be able to use from your for your track. So I'm just dragging the start marker around here until I find a sound that I like. So there's a lot of things you can do in under the sample display over here, but I'm not going to touch on everything. I'm just going to focus on the transposition feature right over here. So when you transpose a sample, what you're actually doing is you're pitch shifting the track, but with transposition you're doing it by semitones, so you can stay in a certain key if you want, and it basically won't sound completely like out of tune or detuned. So what I'm doing here is I'm taking that same sample and I'm putting it into the other cells of the drum rack. So I'm taking that same exact sample and I'm transposing some of them by different semitones, so you'll see how it turns out, and you'll see why I'm doing it in just a sec. See, what I'm doing is I'm creating a chord progression, but I'm just using one sample. If you're curious or confused as to what number of semitones to shift by to get something that still sounds in key with the sample you're already working with, a quick tip is to shift by 5 semitones or 7 semitones. Although the sound you generate from it might be very similar or somewhat limited, it's a good way to start to understand how you can work with the harmonics of the scale or scales that your track might be in. You can also shift by 12 semitones because it'll always be in key no matter what. There are only 12 semitones in an octave, so you're just jumping up or down one octave and staying on the same note. Again, my advice is to experiment with it, see what sounds good, and it'll be a lot more fun learning about harmonics in your track that way, than just hearing it from me. So as you can see, the drum rack has a lot of flexibility. This is just a very simple technique, but you can already render the sound if you just practice a bit with the MPK, and yeah. That's pretty much it for this tutorial. In the next MPK Mini tutorial, I'll be covering how to use the 8 knobs over there and incorporate them, assign effects to them, and use them in the performance act. Now what I'm doing here is I'm just adjusting the release time for some of the samples, just like I did in the last video, and yeah, you can see how it turns out. So yeah, that's it for this tutorial. Definitely, if you want, you can post a video response of you trying this out with your MPK, and yeah, I'd love to check it out and see what you guys come up with.